Hey there, Drowsy Historian here. Tonight you're not a king, a knight, or anyone the newspapers might bother naming. You're a poor labourer in the damp underbelly of Victorian London, born in a room with more mould than windows, raised on bread that tastes like chalk, and kept alive by water that smells faintly of something dead. The Thames isn't a river anymore. It's a threat, and your body, loyal as it's been, is about to betray you in ways that feel personal. Before we descend into filth, fever and fluid loss, do me a small favour. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I find it fascinating to see who's tuning in from around the world. If you'd like early access to more of these grim little tragedies, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back, get comfortable. Let's begin. You wake up to the sound of flies, not the light, lazy kind that buzz and flit in sunny windows. These ones are heavier, meaner. They scrape when they move, little black specks dragging their legs across your basin, your floorboards, your face if you're too still for too long. You swat them without opening your eyes, but it's half-hearted. You're used to them now. You're used to most things. The damp in your mattress, the pinch in your knees, the stench of the pail beside your bed that's long past full and starting to sour in the heat. You shift slowly, every joint stiff with sleep and something less natural. Your shirt clings to your back. You're sweating again, not from fever, just from the air. There's no breeze this deep inside the building. No clean air either, just a low sour warmth that wraps around your neck and settles in your mouth, like someone breathing into your face after a long night of drinking. The window is no help. It's smaller than a loaf of bread and looks out at a brick wall 6 inches away. You could open it, but you'd only trade still heat for smoky heat. Either way, it tastes like soot. The room is no bigger than a stable stall. The walls are blistered from old damp, and the plaster is peeling like skin after a burn. You keep meaning to scrub it, but scrub with what? The rag you used to clean is the same one you used to dry your face, and neither task is done well. There's a patch of mould growing behind the water basin. You stopped looking at it a week ago when it started to change colour. You don't know what that means. You don't want to know. Your mattress used to be a mattress. Now, it's just a collection of straw and sour wool pressed into the shape of your body. It sinks in the middle, so you sleep curled to one side or wake up with your spine bent like a question mark. The blanket is more whole than cloth. You pull it tighter anyway. There's comfort in habit, even when the habit is cold and smells faintly of mildew. You reach for the basin beside the bed. It's got half an inch of water left in it, gone cloudy overnight. There's something floating in it, a piece of lint maybe, or part of a dead fly. You drink it anyway. Your throat is dry and your lips are starting to crack. You could ask Mrs. Abley for a fresh cup from downstairs, but she hasn't answered her door in a day and a half. Her shoes are still outside, turned neatly to the side. You noticed that yesterday. You notice it again now. The tenement is quiet in the early morning. Not peaceful, just tired. Wood creaks under shifting weight. Somewhere, a baby cries, the kind of flat, hoarse cry that doesn't expect comfort. A man coughs 3 times, spits into something metal, then coughs again. A door slams. Someone mutters. A rat scrabbles across the ceiling and disappears into the walls. You wonder if it's the same one that chewed through your bread last week. You meant to set a trap. You don't have anything worth baiting it with. The privy is 3 doors down from your room, and technically shared, though some tenants keep buckets in their rooms and pretend otherwise. It stinks even through the door. A deep, eggy stench with a sharp edge to it, like rotting onions and wet rope. The night soil men haven't come in days, maybe longer. The last time you tried to use it, the contents were near the lip. You don't bother anymore. Your own pail is easier to reach and just as unsanitary. You tell yourself that makes it cleaner. You sit on the edge of the mattress and stare at the far wall. There's a crack in it that runs from the floor to ceiling, thin as a needle, but widening slowly with each passing season. You've started watching it the way other people watch the moon. It's something to measure time by, something to look at besides the ceiling, which is stained in 4 places now. Yellow-brown patches with black rims like smoke rings that never floated away. You scratch at your collarbone? Your skin's been itching lately. Might be the heat, might be the bed bugs. You don't check. You've checked before? They're always there. There's bread wrapped in a rag under your pillow. You take it out and bite it slowly, chewing until it softens enough to swallow. It tastes like ash and yeast, but it's something. You washed your hands yesterday? Maybe. There's no soap, but there was water. That counts for something. You try not to think about where it came from. The last time you looked at the basin in the hallway, it had a film on top and a smell underneath. No one seems to notice anymore. Or maybe they notice but don't care. You understand that. The air in the room thickens as the day warms. Someone in another flat lights a stove, and the smoke leaks through the floorboards, mixing with whatever's been festering in the corners of your own. The building groans with age and damp. The walls are paper thin in places, not literally, but it feels that way when someone shouts. You once heard an entire argument through the wall to your left, followed by a slap, a crash, and 2 days of silence. Then the shouting started again. That was 3 months ago. Your eyes start to drift shut again, not from sleep, but from something heavier. You're not sick, not yet, just tired, always tired. You lean back into the dip in the mattress and let yourself sink. It smells stronger today. The sweat, the pale, the sweet sour rot that's been getting worse with the heat. You've grown used to it all, but something under your ribs twists at the scent now. You breathe through your mouth and pretend it helps. Then you hear it. At first it's just a cough, the wet doubled over kind that comes from deep inside a chest that isn't used to clean air. That's nothing new. Half the building coughs like that. You wait for it to stop. It doesn't. It sharpens, turns into a gag, then another, then something worse. A kind of heaving that has nothing left to bring up, but brings it anyway. There's a splatter, a pause, another. It's coming from the wall behind your bed. Not loud, but close, too close. You know that voice. You don't know the name, but you know the sound. You've heard it before. The neighbour with the limp. He lives alone, you think. You try to ignore the noises. You've heard worse. Drunks retching in the stairwell. Babies crying through the night with nothing but sugar water in their bellies. A man who coughed himself into silence over the course of a week and left behind a room you still won't walk past without holding your breath. What's happening next door sounds awful, yes, but not surprising. Just someone's gut turning inside out. Could be bad meat, could be gin, could be whatever they scraped from a bin and called supper. You tell yourself this quietly and often, until the heaving fades into a kind of rhythm, and then eventually into silence. Still something about it sticks, a texture in the sound. Not just stomachs giving up, but a kind of helplessness that makes your teeth itch. Whoever it was, he didn't even call out. That's the part that gets to you. No help expected, no help wanted, just endure or expire. That's the way of it. You lie back on your mattress and stare at the cracked ceiling until your eyes go unfocused. There's nothing to be done. You need to eat, or work, or something in between. If you stay here too long, the stink of your own sweat and breath will drown you in it. The building staircase groans beneath your feet as you make your way down. The air shifts from still to choking, every step releasing some new scent from the walls. Mildew, lamp oil, old blood. You pass by Mr. Dobson's door and try not to glance at the crusted handkerchief nailed to the frame. A quiet sign that someone inside is sick, or dying, or both. You've seen more of them lately. Makeshift flags of surrender. They don't stop anyone from walking by, but they do change how people breathe near them. Shallower, faster, as if it might keep the bad air from getting in. The hallway opens into the entryway, where the front door hangs open on a crooked hinge. Just beyond it is the alley, a narrow artery of piss-slick stone and discarded bones that leads to the wider street. the stink of the city rolls in on a lazy breeze, bringing with it all the worst perfumes of summer: raw sewage, boiled fat, sour beer, horse dung, and something rotting that might once have been alive. You cover your nose with your sleeve out of instinct, though the cloth only filters the air into something warmer and more personal. Outside, the street is louder than usual. Not busy exactly, just louder. People talking in low, nervous voices. Conversations that end mid-sentence when you get too close. You hear phrases repeated like prayers. Fell dead on the spot, came out both ends, blue as a corpse and still breathing. A woman on the corner sells wilted cabbage leaves out of a basket and mutters something about divine punishment. Behind her, two boys argue about whether rats carry it, or if it's just the devil finally collecting rent. Neither seems to know what it is. No one does, but everyone agrees something is happening. The air feels wrong, heavier than it should be. There's a heat to it that doesn't come from the sun, a kind of sick warmth that clings to your chest and makes each breath feel borrowed. You hear the word miasma pass between two old men, their faces pinched and grey. One of them swears by his dead wife's soul that it's the fog that kills, not the food. The fog comes in off the river in the early hours and settles into your lungs like mould on bread. That's what he says. That's what a lot of people are saying. Bad air, bad morals, bad luck. You keep walking. On the stoop of a neighbouring building, a preacher shouts about sin and salvation, his voice cracking from overuse. He waves a ragged Bible with one hand and gestures with the other toward a cluster of small children playing in the gutter, as if their very existence offends the Lord. He says it's the drink, or the dancing, or the fornication in back alleys that's brought this plague down. He blames women for tempting men. He blames the poor for tempting God. He does not mention the rats. He does not mention the water. A man with a shovel carts away a sack that isn't moving. You don't ask. You don't look too long. The sack is the wrong shape for potatoes, and everyone on the street is careful not to step too close. You round the corner toward the pump. The Broad Street one, the one they say is clean. It's busy, but quieter than you'd expect. People line up not with chatter, but with the dull resignation of cattle in a queue for slaughter. No one wants to linger here. You bring your cup, the same tin one you use for broth, beer, and everything in between. You rinse it once with what's left of yesterday's water, then step up to the spout when your turn comes. The pump handle is cool in your hand, worn smooth by the thousands of palms before yours. It makes a sound like a dying breath when you pull it down, and then, after a heartbeat, a thin stream of water spurts from the pipe. It's clear enough. Not crystal, but not brown. No floaters today. You fill your cup and glance down at the puddle forming around the base, watching as it slips toward the drain in the gutter and disappears into whatever waits below. They say this water is good, that it's from a deep well, not a surface spring, not tainted by runoff or chamber pots or leaking privies. You've heard the rumours too, that it's cursed or contaminated or pulled up from underneath a cesspool. But you've also seen the baker fill his barrels here, and the widow across the alley, with her 6 little ones, who've somehow stayed healthy. For now, you raise the cup to your lips and drink. It's not refreshing, nothing is, but it's wet, and that counts for something. You swallow twice, 3 times, letting the water sit in your throat before forcing it down. It tastes like iron and ash. Maybe that's your mouth, maybe it's the pump. Either way, you'll be back tomorrow. Unless something else gets you first. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand and step aside for the next in line. A boy no older than 10, barefoot and shivering despite the heat. He doesn't thank you. No one does. This isn't a place for manners. It's a place for staying alive just long enough to do it again. Behind you, a woman mutters about a girl who died 2 streets over. Just dropped. Right in front of the butcher's. No warning, no scream, just a puddle and silence. Another voice chimes in, saying she drank from this very pump an hour before. A third voice laughs bitterly, and says if we stopped drinking water every time someone died, we'd all be dry as dust by now. The line keeps moving. The voices keep murmuring. No one goes home feeling cleaner. You glance once more at the spout as it drips lazily into the street, then turn back the way you came. You don't feel any different. Not yet. But something about the way your stomach tightens as you walk, just for a moment, just a twitch, makes you wonder. You don't say anything. You just keep walking, cup in hand, water in your gut, and behind you, the pump keeps dripping. A day passes, maybe two. It's hard to measure time when your life doesn't change much between morning and night. The sky looks the same through your narrow window, dim and yellowed with smoke, like a lantern behind fogged glass. The walls haven't moved, the sounds haven't changed, but something in you has. You wake with a tightness deep in your gut. Not pain exactly, just a wrongness, like a stone was placed there while you slept. It feels low and slow and unfamiliar. Hunger usually bites sharp and mean. This is heavier, warmer. You lie still for a while and wait for it to pass. It doesn't. Your mouth tastes like copper and something sour. You sit up slowly, limbs sluggish and skin damp. The room smells stronger than usual, though you're not sure if it's the air or just you. You blink hard to clear the sleep from your eyes, but your vision stays fuzzy around the edges. You reach for the scrap of bread under your pillow, the same rag-wrapped lump you saved from yesterday, and try to chew. You manage one bite before your stomach pulls upward in protest, clenching not in want, but in refusal. You spit the mouthful back into your hand. It tastes like wood. You sit there on the edge of the bed for a long time, holding that chewed mass of bread and not knowing what to do with it. Throwing it out feels wasteful. Eating it feels impossible. You press it back into the cloth and set it on the floor beside the mattress. Maybe later, maybe never. You rest your elbows on your knees and let your head hang between your arms. There's a pressure behind your eyes now, dull and slow, like water building behind a dam. You rub your temples, it helps, then it doesn't. The sounds from the hallway are quieter than usual. No footsteps, no shouting. Just the occasional creak of wood settling and the drip of something, somewhere, hitting something else. You think about standing up, but the idea feels ambitious. You're not sure you trust your legs to do what they're supposed to do. They feel stiff, not sore, just slow, like they're considering not working at all. You press your palm to your stomach. It's warm, too warm. Your fingertips leave little trails of sweat when you pull them away. You shift your weight forward and feel a gurgle, a strange liquid swirl deep in your belly. It's not a sound you recognize. It doesn't hurt. Yet, but it feels like something is moving, gathering, coiling. You tell yourself it's nothing. You tell yourself it's the cabbage you ate 2 nights ago, or the water you drank that wasn't quite clear, or maybe just your nerves. Everyone's been on edge lately. Maybe you've just caught the panic. You lean back against the wall and close your eyes. The plaster behind you is cool and rough. It feels good on your spine. You take a breath through your mouth. Your nose has started to burn, and let your thoughts drift. You think about the pump, about how it squeaked when you used it, how the water pooled around your boots, cloudy in the sun. You remember the sound of someone saying a girl dropped dead in the street. She'd drunk from the same pump an hour before. You remember telling yourself that didn't mean anything. People drop dead all the time. Sometimes they don't even fall. They just leak. Your stomach groans again. Not the usual empty rumble, but a thick churn like something alive is shifting inside you. You sit forward instinctively, hugging your arms across your belly. It doesn't help. You feel hot all over now, a heavy, wet heat that beads across your back and behind your knees. Your shirt clings to your skin. You wipe your forehead and find it slick. You wipe your hands on your trousers. That was a mistake. The pressure comes fast, no warning. One moment you're breathing through a cramp, the next your gut clenches like a fist and something inside you drops. You gasp. It's not pain, not yet, just urgency, overwhelming and total. You reach for the pail, half standing, bending, fumbling with one hand while the other grips the mattress to stay upright. You don't make it. Your body gives out a second before your fingers reach the handle. It's sudden. Warm, wet, a flood that erupts without your permission, without control. It runs down the backs of your legs and into your boots, soaking through cloth and leather and pooling on the uneven floorboards beneath you. You freeze from shock, from shame, from sheer helplessness. There's a smell, sharp and sour and oddly sweet, like rice water left in the sun. You recognize it. You've smelled it in the stairwell, in the hallway, in rooms with handkerchiefs nailed to the door. You don't move for a long time. When you do, it's only to shift your weight slightly, to try and pull your feet free from the spreading warmth beneath you. The floor is already soaking it in, the old wood swelling at the edges. The pail sits 2 feet away, useless. You hate it. You want to kick it. You don't. That would take more strength than you have. Your breathing is shallow now. Not from panic, just fatigue. You're tired. Strangely, completely tired. More than usual. Not the kind that fades with food or rest, but something deeper. A weight behind your ribs that makes even sitting feel like work. You wipe your hands on your knees, then stop. Everything you touch is damp now. Everything smells like illness. You reach for the rag that covers your water basin and wet one corner of it. Then try to clean your legs. The motion makes your stomach twist again. You stop halfway through and lean forward, waiting for the next wave. It doesn't come. Not yet. Your eyes drift to the stains spreading across the floor. It's pale and filmy, pooling in the dips between the boards. You wonder how long it will take before it seeps through to the ceiling below. You wonder if anyone will notice. Probably not. The people upstairs don't come down unless they have to. The people downstairs pretend they don't hear. You don't cry, there's no energy for that. You just sit there, damp and shaking, watching as your body turns against you in real time. This isn't hunger. This isn't fatigue. It's something else, something worse. You feel hollow, as if the middle of you has already dissolved and the rest is just catching up. You try to stand slowly, gripping the edge of the wall and the window frame with both hands. Your knees hold, just barely. Your boots squelch as you shift. You strip them off with effort and set them aside, then stand barefoot in the puddle and try not to retch at the smell. You fail. Your stomach convulses once, but there's nothing left to bring up. Just bile, just air. You sit back down before you fall. The mattress groans beneath you, wet at the edges where the filth has begun to spread. You tell yourself it was the stew, the one from 2 nights ago, watery and grey, thickened with something that wasn't quite meat. Or maybe it was the bread, old and crumbling, left too long on the shelf with the crust starting to bloom white. Or maybe the water, though you hesitate to think that. Because if it's the water, then it's everything. Then it's the same thing that's in your basin, your tea, your sweat. Then it's already inside you. Not something to be passed, but something you've already become. You try to clean up. You do truly. You take the rag from the basin and soak it, wring it, press it to your thighs and calves, wiping at the filth now, dried sticky against your skin. But it doesn't matter. Even as you scrub one patch, another follows. Your gut pulses and shifts, warm and sudden, and the bucket still isn't close enough. You lurch for it, too late again, and the contents of your body spill out without pause. Thin, pale, and strangely odourless. It runs between your legs and down to the floor, soaking the already damp straw. You feel hollow, not in the metaphorical sense, but literally, physically empty, like someone scooped your insides out and forgot to stitch the hole closed. You recognise the fluid now. You've seen it before. You told yourself you hadn't, that what Mr. Dobson passed was different, that his was worse, that his was yellow or green or red, something with colour, something that meant infection, not this ghostly trickle of water and mucus. But no, it's the same, almost milky, almost clear. They call it rice water. It doesn't look like food. It looks like something left behind. Something forgotten in a bowl overnight and poured out in the morning with a shudder. You reach for the bucket and drag it towards you, shaking, knowing now it's not about catching it in time. It's about keeping the worst of it off the mattress. You've already ruined it, of course, but something in you still clings to the idea of containment, of cleanliness, of doing the decent thing even while your body falls apart. Your limbs are twitching now. It starts small, your fingers jerking against your thigh, your foot kicking out once, involuntarily. Then the cramps begin. Real cramps, the kind that grip you from the inside out. Your legs curl without permission, and your toes dig into the floorboards. The muscles in your belly seize and twist, and you double over with a gasp, hands pressing into your sides, like you might squeeze the pain out, if you're fast enough. You want to scream. You think about it. Just one shout, not even for help, just so someone knows you're still here. But you don't, because you remember the man upstairs last week, the one who screamed for 6 hours and died anyway. No one came then. No one will come now. It's not cruelty, it's calculus. The risk of helping is greater than the reward of saving someone who probably won't make it anyway. The cramps roll through you in waves, each one sharper than the last. You can't breathe properly. Not because your lungs don't work, but because every breath has to wait its turn between the pulses of pain. You pant like a dog, open-mouthed and shallow, your tongue sticking to the roof of your mouth. You're thirsty, but you don't dare drink. You know, somewhere deep inside, that more water in means more water out, and you don't have anything left to give. Your skin begins to prickle, not just with heat, but with something colder, something underneath the surface. You glance down at your hands and see the tremble there, not from effort or fear, but from the slow leak of salt and fluid your body can't seem to hold. Your fingernails are bluer than they should be. You rub them hard against the hem of your shirt to warm them, but it doesn't help. You're sweating and freezing all at once, shaking under your own damp clothes. You hear movement in the hallway, someone walking past your door. You freeze, breath held, then let it out slow. You don't call to them. What would you say? That you've soiled the bed? That you're leaking from every opening? That you know, with a cold clarity now, what this is? Everyone knows. They just don't say it. There's power in not naming things. It keeps them on the other side of the wall. You try to rise, you make it halfway. Your knees buckle, and you fall sideways onto the mattress. The straw squelches beneath you, and the smell rises with the heat, sweet and sickly and thick. Not like rot exactly, but like something trying very hard not to rot and failing. You wretch. There's nothing to bring up. Your throat convulses anyway. You stay there for what feels like hours. Maybe it is. You lose track. The light through your window never changes much. Time here is marked only by the frequency of your evacuations, and they come so often now that your entire world has shrunk to a cycle of tension, release, and breathless recovery. There is no space between them anymore. No rest. Just the faint awareness that you're unravelling, slowly, wetly, one layer at a time. Your legs twitch again. The muscles in your back cramp so sharply that your whole body bends. And for a moment you think you might pass out. You don't. You stay conscious for every second of it, which somehow feels worse. You'd hoped your mind would have the decency to check out by now. It hasn't. It's just watching. At some point you realise you're crying, not loudly, not even visibly. Just slow tears tracking down the sides of your face into the filth. You didn't know you had water left to spare. You want to wipe them away, but your hands won't move. You've gone stiff, your fingers curl like claws into the mattress, and your arms tremble from the effort of holding your own weight. You lie there, in a half-fetal curl, pinned by pain, your mouth parted slightly, to take in what air you can without breathing too deeply of the room. You think of your neighbour, the one who died last week. You remember how quiet he got in the final hours, how his breathing slowed, how his face turned grey and then blue, how they came for him in the night, wrapped him in a sheet, and carried him out like a sack of rubbish. You remember the stain on the floor they didn't clean for days. It's still there if you know where to look. You wonder if someone will find one in your room soon. You manage to roll sideways and let your feet touch the floor. It's slick, cold. You press your palms to the wall and drag yourself upright, inch by inch. Your vision blurs. Your head spins. You know you won't make it far, but you don't need far. Just the door. Just something between you and the rest of the world, however thin. You crawl, your knees knock against floorboards. Your breath comes in short, high gasps. You reach the door and lean your forehead against it. The wood is cool, solid. It feels strange, something in your world that hasn't turned to liquid yet. You rest your whole body against it, eyes closed. You think about opening it. You think about calling for someone. You think about being seen like this, soaked, shaking, less a person than a puddle with thoughts. You don't open it, you just stay there, pressed against the wood, waiting, listening, and leaking. Sometime later, you lie in your bed, shaking. Not from cold exactly, and not from fever either, though both seem possible. It's a deeper kind of tremble, the kind that starts in your gut and radiates outward like ripples in spoiled milk. Your limbs twitch in turns, your teeth click softly with each breath, and the mattress underneath you squelches whenever you shift. You stopped trying to move hours ago. You can't tell whether your bones hurt or your muscles or both. All you know is that the pain has become part of the air, settling into every corner of the room, crawling up the walls with the rising damp. The bucket beside the bed is useless now. You've missed it too many times and you don't have the strength to reach it anyway. What little is left of your strength is spent gripping the edge of the mattress or the wall, holding on as if the room might tip over without warning and dump you into something worse. The rag beneath your hips has soaked through twice. You stopped changing it. You stopped caring. The mattress is ruined, but the mattress was always ruined. You're just taking it with you, one final indignity at a time. Your mouth tastes like metal, not just at the back of your throat, but everywhere. Your tongue, your teeth, even your breath. What little of it remains. Every swallow is dry. Every gasp draws air that feels thick and wrong, like it's already been used by someone sicker than you. You try sipping from the tin cup on the floor, but it spills as your hand fumbles the edge. The water hits the floor and spreads out across the boards, clean and pale, indistinguishable from the rest of it. You don't reach for it again. The heat comes next, not real heat, not the kind you feel when you sit near a fire or step into the sun, but the kind your body invents when it's dying. It builds from your spine outward, a slow creeping fever that doesn't warm you so much as it sets off alarms in your nerves. You sweat, not a little, profusely. Every inch of you is slick. Your shirt clinging to your back like skin on skin. Your thighs glued together beneath the blanket. The room smells like illness, the kind of sickness that clings to wood and cloth long after the body has gone. You sweat until the mattress squelches beneath you, until you can feel it soaking your neck, your shoulders, the backs of your knees. It rolls down your chest and into your ears, and for a few moments you wonder if this is what drowning from the inside feels like. And then the cold returns. It doesn't creep this time. It snaps. One moment you're boiling, and the next your body turns on itself. Your skin, already pale, shifts to a kind of blotchy grey. Your fingers, still clenched into your thighs, begin to lose feeling. The tremors in your arms become more rhythmic, almost like shivers, except they don't stop. You curl into yourself instinctively, trying to preserve what little heat your body still holds. It's like hugging a corpse. You're not cold from the air. The air hasn't changed. You're cold because your body has given up on keeping you warm. You try to stretch your legs, but the cramps stop you. They seize without warning, jerking your calves into tight ropes of pain. You bite down on your blanket and scream into it silently. Not because you're being brave, but because you've learned that crying out just wastes breath. Crying takes water. You have none left. You clench your jaw and shake, body spasming like a thing electrocuted, then lie still again, heart pounding behind your ribs like a fist in a locked box. Your eyes are starting to sink, not just metaphorically, literally. The skin around them darkens, hollows. You blink slowly, and the lids drag like wet cloth. The light from the window, what little seeps through the soot-caked glass, seems to smear across your vision now, halos forming around anything brighter than shadow. You see shapes that aren't there, colours that don't belong. You tell yourself it's the heat, or the cold, or both. You curl into yourself tighter, and the blanket shifts with you. It peels away from your feet, exposing your toes to the air. You don't feel it. You look down and stare at your feet for a long time. The nails are pale. The skin has gone bluish-grey, like meat left out too long. You don't know when that happened. You press your palm to your shin. There's no warmth. You don't pull the blanket back down. What would be the point? Your hands aren't shaking anymore. That should be comforting, but it isn't. They've stopped because they can't. Your fingers are curling inward, not tightly, not in pain, just slowly, gradually, as if they're forgetting how to do anything else. Your palms twitch, your wrists ache from the weight of your own bones. You try to move your pinky and watch it spasm slightly, then fall still again. The movement costs you more energy than it should. Your lips are dry and cracked. You can feel them split when you try to wet them with your tongue, but your tongue sticks to your teeth. It feels thick, too thick for your mouth. Your breath comes in shallow bursts, each one colder than the last. Your chest rises, but not enough. The air doesn't feel like it's reaching your lungs anymore. You know what this is. You don't want to name it. Naming things gives them power. You think dimly of the pamphlet someone left on the pump a few weeks ago. A warning about water, about symptoms. You didn't read it. You couldn't. But someone read it aloud once, loudly enough for half the street to hear. The man with the rasping voice and missing ear, shouting about sunken eyes and blue skin and clammy limbs. You remember laughing a little, because it sounded like a ghost story. You're not laughing now. The cramps return, not in your belly this time, but in your fingers, your toes, your jaw. Your body contorts in small ways. Your neck tilts too far to one side. Your foot turns inward until your ankle pops. You make no noise. You just let it happen. Your body has stopped consulting you on decisions. It has its own plan now, and you're just here to observe it. You lie still for a long while, staring at the ceiling. It's cracked. You count the splits in the plaster like you used to count church bells. Slowly, deliberately, as if they mark something sacred. You try to blink, and your eyelids respond a second too late. You try to swallow, and your throat clicks but doesn't move. Your breath whistles softly as it escapes your nose, and you think about how strange it is that you can still hear it. Your skin has gone cold, not the cold of winter or frost, but the deep, internal cold of something shutting down. You touch your own arm and flinch, not from the contact, but from the realization that the skin no longer feels like yours. It's clammy, damp, slightly rubbery. You press your thumb into your forearm and watch the indentation linger too long. The colour takes its time returning. Your heart is slowing, and your blood no longer seems interested in making the full journey. Your breath catches, not for dramatic effect, just from exhaustion. You lie back again, fully now, limbs loose and useless, and let your eyes drift to the window. The sun has moved, but you didn't notice it happen. Time slips sideways when your body forgets how to track it. You think of the rats. You haven't heard them today. Even they've kept their distance. You exhale slowly and feel your chest tighten at the bottom of the breath. You don't inhale right away, not because you don't want to, but because it takes longer than expected. When the air finally returns, it feels thinner, less convincing. You wonder how many more times you'll do that before the breath just doesn't come back. Your fingers are curled now, fixed in place like a dead bird's claws. Your lips are grey. Your eyes are sunken so far into your skull, you feel like a sketch of yourself. You are still sweating. You are still freezing. And there's nothing left to come out of you but the last few pieces of what used to be a person. And still the cramps keep coming. Someone knocks, just once, so you hear it through the haze, a dull thump against wood, barely more than the creak of a settling floorboard. You don't respond. You're not sure you can. Your tongue is stuck to the roof of your mouth, and your arms won't lift themselves anymore. You lie there, limp in your wet sheets, too cold to sweat and too tired to tremble. You think maybe they'll go away, but they don't. After a moment, the door creaks open, and someone steps inside. They don't call your name. They don't greet you or ask permission. They just shuffle in, feet soft and cautious, and make a sound with their mouth that might be pity or might be disgust. You can't tell. You don't look. You don't want to know which. A rustling follows, fabric maybe, or a satchel opening, and then the scrape of a basin being set down on the floor. You hear breathing, not heavy but measured, not kind either, professional, efficient, someone's doing a job. You gather dimly that it's a woman, older maybe, or just dry from smoke and experience. She mutters something under her breath and moves closer, and you feel a sudden draft as the blanket is peeled away. Cold air hits your legs, and you flinch, or try to. Your muscles contract, but not far enough to matter. Still warm, she mutters, not to you, just aloud. That's something. A cloth presses to your forehead, soaked in something that smells like vinegar. It stings and your eyes water, though not from any emotion. You haven't had enough water in you for emotions lately. The cloth moves to your neck, your chest, your arms, not cleaning, just dabbing, as if trying to decide whether you're worth bothering with. She speaks again, louder this time, to someone at the door. Bucket. You hear footsteps retreat and return. Then she crouches beside the bed and produces a brown glass bottle. You recognise the smell before you see it. Mustard. Sharp, almost acidic. The scent alone makes your stomach heave. She rubs it between her fingers and slathers it across a cloth, then presses it to your chest with quick, brutal hands. It burns. Not a slow warmth, not a tingle. A fire. Your skin lights up beneath it, like it's being flayed. You try to jerk away, but your body doesn't obey. You manage a moan, soft, barely a sound. And she tisks like someone chastising a child for fussing during church. Better than rotting, she says, pressing harder. The cloth is removed after what feels like hours. Your skin tingles in its absence, raw and pink and sticky. She moves to your side now, rummaging in her bag again, and produces a small tin cup. She spoons something into it, white powder, gritty and chalk-like, and mixes it with a splash of water. The smell alone turns your stomach. She doesn't ask if you want it. She pinches your nose shut and tips the cup to your lips. You choke on the first swallow. It's thick like wet plaster, and bitter in a way that scrapes the back of your throat. It doesn't go down clean. It coats everything it touches. You cough, and a little spills out the side of your mouth, trailing down your chin. She wipes it away with her thumb and tries again. This time, you don't resist. Not because you trust her, but because resistance takes too much energy. The nausea rolls in immediately. You can feel the chalk water settle in your stomach like sludge. You're already cramping again, and the added weight sends your belly into revolt. You fight the urge to vomit, barely. A bit rises in your throat but stays put, for now. She doesn't notice, or doesn't care. You close your eyes hoping that's the end of it. It's not. There's another sound now. The scrape of metal against metal. You crack your eyes open and see a small blade, a razor, old and not particularly clean. She holds it in her palm, like it's no more remarkable than a spoon. You want to ask what she's doing. You want to pull your arm away, but your limbs are dead weight now, just cold flesh pretending at life. She wraps a bit of cloth around your forearm, tying it tight just above the elbow. Then she slaps the skin below it, once, twice, until the veins rise. You watch in dull horror as she presses the blade to the inside of your arm and slices. It's not deep. It doesn't need to be. Blood seeps out in a slow trickle, dark and watery. Not red, not healthy, almost clear in places. She catches it in a basin and frowns. Thin, she mutters. Very thin. You don't look away. Somehow, this hurts less than the mustard. Maybe because it's quiet. Maybe because it makes sense. Bloodletting is something people understand. You've seen it done before. Sick people get drained. Bad humours, they say. Let it out, and the body will right itself. You're not sure anyone really believes that anymore, but they still do it. Because what else is there? She draws out a few more ounces, then presses a rag to the wound and ties it with a strip of cloth. Your arm throbs. Your head swims. You feel smaller, lighter. Not better, just less. From the doorway, another voice pipes up. Young male, uncertain. Should we call the doctor? The woman snorts. What doctor? He's 4 streets over, knee-deep in a dozen others. He won't come for this one. Just leave him be. You don't know who she's talking to. You don't recognise the voice. It doesn't matter. They don't step inside. You don't see their face. A minute passes, maybe 2. She dabs your lips with another cloth. This one cooler, but doesn't speak again. You think for a moment she might be softening. But no, she's checking your pulse, counting, measuring. Her fingers rest on your neck like someone taking stock of goods before they spoil. She sighs and straightens. Better off than some. At least he's not shrieking. There's no kindness in the words. No comfort. Just observation. She gathers her things slowly, placing each item back in her satchel with the precision of habit. The razor goes in last. She snaps the clasp shut and stands without looking at you again. Her footsteps fade toward the door. She speaks once more to the figure in the hall. Mark the door, lime it if you've got any left. Then she's gone. You lie there, exactly where she left you. The bucket is still full. The sheets are wet and beginning to cool. Your chest aches where the mustard sat. Your arm burns from the cut. Your stomach gurgles in protest, still trying to rid itself of the chalk. You stare at the ceiling, eyes wide and unmoving. There's a splinter up there, hanging by a thread. You focus on it. Not because it matters, but because it's the only thing in the room not already leaking or dying. From somewhere outside the door, you hear the faint sound of liquid being poured. A slosh, a brush. The sour scent of vinegar seeps in through the cracks. They're marking you, the way butchers mark bad meat. You close your eyes, and you're left alone, again, in soiled sheets. You wake to the sound of a voice. Or maybe you don't wake at all. It might be a dream or a memory, or something stitched together from both. But the voice is real enough to hold on to, and for a moment it feels warm. It says you're going to be fine, that you're improving, that the worst has passed. It's the sort of thing people say to the dying when they want to lie gently. The tone is quiet, too light for scolding, too practiced for comfort. The kind of voice you hear from someone already looking past you toward the next bed, the next body. You don't know whose voice it is. It doesn't match the woman with the mustard plasters or the boy in the doorway. It's higher than you expect, female maybe, or just thin. You try to turn your head, but the effort isn't worth it. Everything inside you aches, not sharply, not even urgently anymore, just constantly. A low, spreading fatigue that feels less like pain and more like being filled with damp wool. Your arms lie heavy at your sides, your legs are tangled in the sheets, but you can't feel your toes. You think they're still there. You want to say something, anything, a noise, a cough, even a grunt to let them know you're still inside this body. But your throat has sealed itself shut. Your mouth is too dry to shape syllables. Your tongue feels like it's wrapped in linen. You haven't had a drink since the chalk water, and even that's only made things worse. You can feel the dehydration now, not just in your mouth, but in your muscles. Your skin has gone tight, your eyes sunken so deep they ache when you blink. You're becoming smaller, sucked inward by your own failing systems. The voice goes on, chirping about fresh air and bed rest and prayers answered. Then it's gone, and the room folds back in on itself. You lie still, staring at the same patch of ceiling you've been watching for what might be hours or days. The splinter's still there. It hasn't moved. It's one of the few things that hasn't. The mattress beneath you has changed shape entirely. It sags worse than before, and the straw has shifted to form damp ridges beneath your hips and shoulders. You think one of the springs may have rusted through. You can feel something cold and metallic pressed just under your spine. You haven't eaten in 3 days, maybe more. The bread under your bed has gone hard enough to crack teeth. You know this because you tried. It tasted like ash and mould, and something faintly sweet like fruit gone too far. You spat it out and left the rest in the corner, where it now sits in a puddle of something unidentifiable. Even the rats have ignored it. You haven't urinated in at least 2 days. Your bladder gave up long before your bowels did. What little moisture is left in you leaks from your pores in sticky beads that dry on your skin before they roll free. The smell in the room has changed. It's heavier now, less sour and more still. The air feels thick, as if even the stench is too tired to move. There's the sweet, unmistakable scent of excrement, of course. Days of it, layered and warm, rising from the sheets and floor and basin like a fog. But beneath that, something sharper lingers. Not decay exactly, but something that tastes of metal and meat and slow rot. You don't notice it all at once. It builds around you gradually until it feels like part of the furniture. You're not sure whether it's your body or the room producing it. Likely both. Now and then someone passes by your door. You hear footsteps on the landing, soft, hesitant, almost reverent. They move quickly. No one lingers. The ones who live here know what's behind your door, even if they won't say it out loud. A few days ago, people still knocked. Someone brought you half a biscuit. Another left a cup of thin broth just inside the threshold. But those gestures have stopped. The hallway belongs to other survivors now, and they've already accepted that you won't be one of them. No one comes in to change the linens. No one wipes your brow or empties the bucket. You're marked now. Not officially, perhaps. No painted X, no cloth nailed to the door frame. But word spreads fast in buildings like this, and even faster in times like these. They don't have to believe in germs to know that stepping into your room is a bad idea. It's not science. It's instinct. Animals avoid carrion for a reason. You try once to call for someone. You gather what little air you can and push it upward through your throat. The sound you make isn't a word. It isn't even a sound, really. Just a breath with shape. You don't try again. The effort leaves you dizzy, and your lungs burn in protest. You turn your head to the side, the motion sluggish, your neck muscles straining like ropes soaked through, and stare at the basin beside your bed. It's full. The last time you managed to crawl far enough to reach it, you left behind a stream of liquid waste that barely made it inside. Now, days later, the surface of the water shimmers slightly, with a film of something oily. Tiny bubbles collect around the rim. Flies buzz lazily above it. One has drowned, floating belly up in the centre, like a bloated speck of punctuation. You can't remember when you last emptied it. You can't remember when you last stood. You think about dragging yourself out of bed, just far enough to tip the bucket out the window, but the idea fades before you can even picture how to move your arms. The window's not that far, but you might as well be imagining a trip to the country. Your world has shrunk to the 4 feet around your body, and even that feels ambitious. You close your eyes and imagine fresh air, green grass, sunlight. You feel none of it. The rasp in your breath has deepened. You hear it now, even when you're not trying to. A dry whistle, like wind passing through a cracked door, Each breath catches somewhere high in your chest and takes longer to escape than it should. You're not gasping, you're too weak for that. But the sound of your own breathing is louder than your thoughts. You wonder if that's a mercy. Your ribs have begun to show through your shirt, not just at the edges, where the cloth has worn thin, but clearly now, like lines drawn in charcoal across your chest. Your arms are all bone and shadow. Your hip juts upward at an angle that feels unnatural, though you're too far gone to adjust it. Your body has stopped trying to hold itself together. It's just letting go, one corner at a time. Someone walks past the door again. They don't pause, they don't knock. You think they step a little softer this time. Not out of care, but out of habit. Like people walking through a graveyard, unsure of where the bodies are buried. Your legs are numb. Not cold, not tingling, just absent. You know they're still there because you can see them vaguely, under the folds of the blanket, and because the weight of your body hasn't changed. But there's no sensation anymore. No sense of pressure or pain. You could be floating, for all the difference it makes. You try to shift one ankle, just to prove you still can, but it doesn't move. You tell yourself it's temporary, a cramp maybe, a passing thing, but you don't believe that anymore. Your eyes won't track the light. The window, that little square sliver of the world, has blurred into a pale smear at the edge of your vision. You know the sun has moved across the sky, because the shadow on the wall behind it has changed shape. But when you try to follow it, your gaze doesn't hold. Your eyelids droop involuntarily, and when you lift them again, everything feels slightly out of sequence. The light is too bright and too dim at once, and it pulses faintly, like a candle seen through oil. You're not in pain anymore, not the way you were. The cramps have eased, the burning has dulled, and your stomach has stopped trying to twist itself into knots. But that's not relief. That's surrender. Your body has simply decided it's done. Whatever war was being fought inside you has reached its final stalemate. And now everything is just winding down. Your chest rises and falls out of habit. Your fingers twitch from time to time. Your mouth opens occasionally, just far enough to let a breath slip through. But you're not doing any of it on purpose. The machine is still running, but no one's behind the controls anymore. Your skin feels wrong. Tight in some places, loose in others, damp where it shouldn't be, and dry where it matters. A sticky sheen clings to your chest and neck, the remnants of sweat that never properly cooled. Your thighs are raw from the acid that soaked them for days, and the insides of your arms have started to blister. You can smell yourself, a faint chemical odour, like spoiled milk and vinegar left too long in the sun. It's no longer just the scent of illness. It's the smell of your body beginning to give up on holding itself together. Your lips are cracked and curled inward, dry as paper. You lick them instinctively, but there's no moisture left in your mouth. Your tongue is swollen, and your throat is rough as gravel. You haven't swallowed in hours, maybe longer. There's nothing to swallow. No spit, no water, no food. Just the slow, desperate rasp of air being drawn through a narrowing space. You hear it every time you exhale. A wet flutter, like cloth torn down the middle. You don't know what's failing, but you know something is. Your thoughts are thick, not gone, not yet, but dulled, fogged like you're thinking through layers of wool. Simple things take effort. Names, places, words. You remember your mother's hands, but can't recall her voice. You remember the colour of your old boots, but not where they ended up. You think of the Broad Street pump, and for a moment you want to laugh because it's almost funny that something so small could kill so many. Then the thought drifts away, unfinished, and you're left staring at the ceiling again. Eyes open, mouth slack. You hear a broom somewhere outside your door. The soft, rhythmic scrape of straw bristles on floorboards. Someone's sweeping the hallway. They don't stop near your door. They don't knock. Just the quiet shuffle of someone trying not to notice the smell. You want to hate them, but you don't have the energy for that either. They're not being cruel. They're being practical. The living take care of the flaws. The dying take care of themselves. Your hands have curled further inward. The fingers that once clutched at the sheets, the wall, the bucket, they're limp now. Their shape frozen. Knuckles swollen and red. Skin stretched thin over bone. Your arms rest at your sides, palms up, the way corpses are laid out for the parish to collect. You notice this and try to turn one over, just to change the pose. You can't. Even the smallest defiance feels impossible. Your breath stutters, not once but repeatedly. Each inhale, a gamble. Each exhale, a slow negotiation. You breathe high in your chest now, barely moving your ribs. It's quieter this way. Easier, but shallower too. You hear the whistle with every draw. Sometimes there's a catch and you pause, not because you choose to, but because your body forgets what comes next. A second passes, 2. Then air floods back in, but it's not a victory, just a delay. Your stomach has collapsed inward. The skin clings tightly to your ribs, puckered and dry in places, discoloured in others. Your belly, once distended from cramping and gas, now lies flat, sunken. It doesn't growl anymore. It doesn't move. It simply exists, still and shrunken, like the rest of you. You imagine what you must look like from above. Not like yourself. Not even like a man. Just a bundle of twisted limbs and hollowed flesh, something misshapen by the weight of its own decay. Your ears ring faintly, though there's no sound to cause it. Just a high, steady pitch that hums beneath everything, even the broom, even your breath. You wonder if this is what silence feels like when it settles into the skull. You wonder if this is the first sound of death. Not a wail, not a moan, just a slow note that plays you out like the end of a broken hymn. You think again of water, not because you want it, but because your body remembers it. A glass cold and full pressed to your lips. You don't remember when that last happened. Maybe days ago, maybe weeks. Time has lost its edges. All you have left are feelings, thirst, hunger, ache, and even those are fading into something more like memory than experience. The thirst is still sharp, but even it is losing shape, like a dream forgotten on waking. Your mouth moves, no words come out. You try again. Your lips twitch and your jaw tightens slightly, but there's no voice, just the smallest wheeze of air through cracked teeth. You're trying to ask something, not for help, not for rescue, just for someone to know that you're still here, that this isn't over yet, that you're not ready, even though you are. Your breath becomes slower, not from choice, just inevitability. You feel it happening. The spaces between inhales stretch wider. The exhales soften until they barely make noise. The air entering your lungs feels thinner, like there's less of it to hold on to. You count each one, not deliberately, but because your brain is trying to measure something, trying to keep track of the last few moments it has before the signal fades. There's no peace, no comfort, no warmth, no grand release of suffering, no light at the end of the tunnel, just the wet sheets, the sores on your hips, the ache in your chest, the distant sweep of a broom. No prayers, no ceremony, just your own breath, quieter each time, as if your body is rehearsing the end before committing to it. You think about screaming, just once, not for rescue, but for proof, but the thought comes too late. Your jaw doesn't move, your chest doesn't rise, the air doesn't come. You're dead. You don't feel it. There is no sudden release, no whisper from beyond, no tunnel of light or parting of clouds. Just the final breath that didn't return and the stillness that followed. No one saw it happen. No one marked the time. There was no last word. No final prayer or hand held in yours. Just silence, thick, wet and indifferent, soaking into your skin and your sheets until your body stopped trying to be anything more than mass. You lie there for hours, maybe more. The sun shifts its angle through the soot-smudged window. Shadows stretch across the floor, then retreat. The light grows dull and yellow. You do not move. You do not stiffen right away. That takes time. But you begin to cool. Your limbs fall into strange angles and stay there. The sweat that coated you starts to dry into a sticky crust. Your skin changes colour in patches, grey where the blood pools, bluish at the lips and fingertips. Your jaw hangs slack. Your eyes part open, glassy and unblinking. They never closed you. No one was there to do it. Eventually, someone notices. A neighbour, perhaps, or a passerby drawn by the smell. Thicker now, sharper, a mixture of body and waste and the first, faint notes of rot. They don't come in. They stop just short of the doorway, 1 foot across the threshold, and pull back. They know what it means. No one says the word. They never do. But the meaning is clear. You've joined the others. They don't touch you. That much is certain. They fetch a torn curtain from the stairwell and toss it over you from a distance, careful not to come too close. It settles unevenly across your torso, one corner falling short of your knees, the other brushing your mouth. It's not a shroud, it's a courtesy, a flimsy gesture to make the scene more bearable for the next set of eyes. You are no longer a man. You're a problem that needs managing. Someone is sent to notify the parish, not a relative. You haven't had those in years. Just someone who doesn't want to smell you through the walls another night. The message is delivered to a clerk or an assistant or some other functionary whose job it is to tick boxes beside the dead. They don't come right away. There are others ahead of you. The city is busy with death this week. Hours pass, your room grows darker. The window lets in less light now, just dull streaks of gold slanting across the filth. Dust dances in the glow. The flies are back, more of them this time. They settle on the cloth, on your feet, on your lips. They crawl across your open eye and do not hesitate. You do not blink. You do not flinch. You are no longer something that reacts. You are something that collects things. At some point, a child peeks through the door. You don't see it. You don't hear the gasp or the quick retreat of footsteps. But it happens. You'll be whispered about for a few days. Another name added to the list of "Did you hear?" and "They say it was fast." But the interest won't last long. No one celebrates a death like yours. It's too familiar, too expected, too much like their own. When the cart finally arrives, it comes without ceremony. A pair of men in rough coats and cloth masks knock once, not out of politeness, but to signal they've come for what's theirs. They don't introduce themselves. They don't speak to anyone if they can help it. They know the work, and they know how the street sees them. Not as rescuers, as reminders. They carry a stretcher between them, stained and sagging in the middle. One steps inside while the other waits. The room is smaller than expected, but that doesn't slow him down. He doesn't flinch at the smell or the stains or the pooling fluids that have begun to seep from your lower half. He's seen worse. You're not even the third today. He lifts the curtain gently, more for his own benefit than yours, and takes one long look at what remains. You're lighter than you used to be, bones sharp against loose skin, body twisted just slightly from your last failed attempt to move. He doesn't call you by name. He doesn't know it. He rolls you onto the stretcher with a grunt and a practiced grip, arms hooked under your shoulders and knees. Your limbs flop loosely. One arm dangles off the side until he tucks it back in. The sheet slides off your face. He doesn't bother replacing it. There's no point. No one's watching. And even if they were, there's no dignity left to preserve. Out in the hall, the second man shifts his stance and glances toward the stairs. He doesn't want to be here longer than necessary. They move quickly, with the coordination of people used to carrying bodies in buildings with too many corners and too little space. You bump against the door frame once on the way out. Your heel clips the edge of a step. No one apologizes. The tenants pretend not to watch. Doors stay closed. Curtains flutter only when backs are turned. The building has learned how to look away without looking like it's doing so. The dead are carried out through back stairwells or side exits whenever possible. But in buildings like this, there aren't always options. You're taken out the front, rolled past muddy boots, and trembling hands that pull back just far enough to make it seem like they weren't waiting. The cart is parked just beyond the stoop. 2 wheels, a plank bed, a pair of canvas wraps already rolled tight around the last bodies. They slide you in between them, tucking you close so you don't shift during the ride. You don't take up much room. What's left of you barely fills the space. No name is written down, not in ink, not on paper. Maybe someone mutters it, or maybe they guess. Maybe they don't even bother. There are too many, and the names start to repeat after a while. The cart creaks as it moves down the street, pulled by a thin horse with a milky eye and a limp. The wheels wobble slightly in their tracks. One of the men walks alongside, the other rides up front. No one follows, no bell tolls, no priest waits with incense. You are not placed in a coffin. There is no wood to waste, no nails, no velvet. You are not buried in a plot with your name etched in stone. There is no mourning veil, no weeping widow, no procession, just a shallow trench dug behind a brick wall on the edge of the parish grounds, or a lime pit behind the poorhouse, or wherever they've found to hide the mounting count. The stretcher tips, and you roll out. Your body hits the ground with a dull thud. Not loud, not dramatic, just soft and final. You land against another, the two of you folding together like forgotten laundry. No one flinches, no one hesitates. You're covered quickly, without ceremony. A handful of lime, a layer of earth, and then the next one is brought forward. The room is scrubbed with vinegar. Not well, just enough to say it was done. Someone, a neighbour maybe, or one of the building's older tenants, who has inherited the job of pretending to care, comes in with a bucket and a rag and wrings the cloth out onto the floor. They don't look directly at the bed. They don't comment on the smell. They keep the window open, even though the air outside is just as thick and just as foul. It helps them believe the room is healing. They don't remove the mattress. It's too heavy, and no one wants to touch it. Instead, they strip the top sheet and roll it in on itself, hiding the worst of the stains. The blanket is taken away and burned or resold. No one knows for sure. The bucket, still half full of your final days, is emptied out the window. It splashes on the stone below and joins the rest of the runoff, indistinguishable from the waste of the living. The rag is dragged across the walls once, maybe twice, paying special attention to the handprint smudged beside the door frame, and the patch where your head rested for so many days. But the stain behind the basin remains. No amount of vinegar reaches that far. No one speaks during the cleaning. No one says your name. A few glances are exchanged in the hallway as the cloth is wrung out and the pail refilled, but they're the kind of glances people use when trying not to remember. You are part of the building now, absorbed into its wood and stone, its smells and its silences. The floorboards that held your weight now creak slightly differently when walked upon, but no one mentions that either. The woman who lived downstairs, she might have been the one who first noticed your absence, mutters something about sanctifying the space. She brings a candle up, one of the cheap ones from the chapel, with the waxy Virgin Mary on the label, and sets it on the edge of the windowsill. It's too short to last more than an hour. The flame flickers, dances in the smoke-damp air, then gutters out with a pop. She takes the stub back with her. The windowsill is left with a ring of wax and a blackened smear. Later that evening, someone mentions the room to the landlord, not as a matter of grief, but as a matter of rent. It was paid through the end of the week, maybe, or maybe not. Either way, there's no sense in leaving it empty. The landlord shrugs, says something about demand, says he'll have it let again by morning. No hesitation, no disgust, just economics. That night, no one walks past the room. The hallway is quiet. A child cries from somewhere downstairs, and the sound bounces off the stone stairwell like a stray echo looking for a home. Upstairs, a door slams. Someone coughs, long and rattling, but it fades after a few minutes. You are not remembered. You are not missed. You are avoided. The next morning, a boy arrives with a bundle under his arm. He's young, Maybe 10, maybe 12. It's hard to say. His face is thin in a way that makes age difficult to measure. He wears a cap too big for his head and boots stuffed with paper. His coat has 3 buttons, none of them matching, and one sleeve hangs longer than the other. The bundle he carries contains all of his belongings: a folded blanket, a chipped bowl, a spare shirt with a collar gone soft from wear. He's shown to the room by the same woman who cleaned it. She doesn't say much, just gestures to the bed and tells him not to mind the smell. "It's better than the street," she says, and the window opens. That counts for something. The boy nods because that's what boys do when given something, even if it's nothing much. He sets down his bundle in the corner and doesn't look too closely at the mattress. He doesn't ask what happened to the last tenant. No one tells him. Maybe he guesses, maybe he doesn't. The building has a way of teaching silence, and he learns it quickly. He doesn't light a candle. He doesn't cry. He sits on the edge of the bed, with his hands in his lap, and waits for night to fall. No one brings him food. No one checks in. He doesn't expect them to. That evening, he goes to the pump with a dented cup and fills it halfway. The water looks clear enough. He drinks it fast, standing in the same spot where you stood not so long ago. The iron handle squeaks the same way. The puddle at the base of the spout ripples outward, catching the light like an oil slick. A woman walks past with a child on her hip and doesn't stop. A man leans against the butcher's wall, coughing into his fist. The boy returns to the room before dark. He kicks off his boots, folds his coat for a pillow, and curls up on the mattress you soiled and died on. He doesn't know that. Or maybe he does. He doesn't seem to care. He sleeps quickly, without prayer or hesitation. No fear, no superstition, just exhaustion. By morning, the building has adjusted. The room doesn't smell quite as strongly. The flies have moved on. The vinegar has dried into sour streaks across the floor. Your name has vanished from conversation. If it's spoken at all, it's in whispers behind closed doors, or as part of a list. Another neighbour gone, another mouth not needing feeding. One less person in line for work, one more room to be filled. Outside, the street carries on. The butcher sells his scraps. The baker swats flies from his window. The preacher stands at the corner with his arms raised and his voice hoarse, warning anyone who'll listen that the reckoning is coming, that the sickness is punishment, that only the righteous will be spared. No one argues with him. No one agrees. He just talks. At the pump, the line forms again. Faces new and old, hands cupped or holding jugs, boots soaking in puddles that never dry. The talk is quieter now, more fearful. Another man collapsed by the chapel steps. A girl convulsed behind the fishmonger's stall. The stories don't change. The names do. The boy hears them all and doesn't say a word. By the end of the day, he will have walked the same halls you did. He will have used the same bucket. He will have leaned against the same patch of wall near the privy, coughing quietly into his sleeve. He will drink again from the Broad Street pump. He will sleep again on the same mattress. He will curl into the same dip you left behind in the straw and damp, his body folding naturally into the space carved by your final days. And so the room begins again. Rent is due, life continues, the street washes itself, but not well. Somewhere far from your tenement, a man studies the dead. Not like a priest or a gravedigger, not with incense or shovels or prayers, but with pen and ink and silence. His name is Snow. He wears a coat too nice for your street, and shoes too polished for the gutters you used to cross each morning. His hands are clean. His breath does not stink of gin or chalk water. He has a quiet voice, and a steady gaze, and a mind that refuses to leave things alone. He walks neighbourhoods with a notebook tucked under his arm, visiting houses where people have recently died. He does not flinch at the smell. He does not recoil when told there's nothing to see. He asks questions, not about sin or miasma, or whether the deceased had been drinking or dancing or praying hard enough, but about habits, about food, about water, especially water. Did they drink from the Broad Street pump? How often? When? Some answer, others don't. But the answers he does get begin to take shape. He marks each death with a black dot on a map. 1 dot per body, 1 dot per street, 1 dot per grave. The dots begin to gather like insects around a single point, spreading out from it like a stain. He traces the lines again and again, and always, at the centre, is that pump. The same one you drank from. The one the boy drinks from now. The one they said was clean. The others scoff. Of course they do. He's not the only man with opinions, just the only one suggesting the cause might not be the air, that it isn't sin or stench or the curse of the lower classes, but something simple, tasteless, clear. Water. It sounds absurd to them. The miasma theory has ruled the sick room for decades, and no one wants to believe that the thing that's supposed to heal could also kill. They laugh at his map. They dismiss his evidence. They call him a crank. But the dots keep coming. Day after day, new names vanish from the ledger. New bodies are carted away. The circles darken. The cluster tightens. The stench doesn't move, but the disease does. And always, it follows the same invisible lines. Lines that flow beneath the cobblestones, under the markets and kitchens and tenements, through the cracked lead pipes and rotting wooden mains. Snow follows them alone. He does not shout. He does not beg. He just walks and marks and waits. Back on your street, the pump remains in use. It's still considered the best in the area. People come from other roads to fill their jugs with its cold iron-tinged water. They swear it helps with digestion, that it clears the lungs, that it's smoother than what they get at home. No one mentions the sick anymore, not directly. The bodies are fewer now, or at least better hidden. The rooms are cleaned faster. The tenants are replaced quicker. The sound of a wretch through a wall is no longer a death sentence, just background noise. The boy in your old room keeps drinking from that pump. He doesn't know about the map. He's never heard of Jon Snow. He's never held a pen long enough to mark anything. He knows only what his neighbours know, that the water's cold, that the line is shorter now, that someone else said it was safe. That's enough. It always is. Eventually the map makes it into the right hands, or the wrong ones, depending on your perspective. A councilman, pressed by too many deaths and too few explanations, agrees to act. Not because he's convinced, but because he's tired. Because the city is groaning under the weight of corpses and complaints, and he needs to be seen doing something, even if it's nothing. So they send a man with a wrench and a pair of pliers. No announcement, no crowd, just a few turns of metal on rusted bolts. The handle is unscrewed, lifted, removed. The pump remains, but its function is gone. The spout is dry. The water line has been severed, the flow cut off. The crowd that once gathered there disperses without argument. They mutter. They adjust. They move on to the next nearest pump, or the one after that. The deaths slow, not everywhere, not all at once, but noticeably, markedly. The black dots on Snow's map begin to space out again. They lose their feverish concentration. The stain fades. He writes papers. He speaks to learned men. He says the cause is in the water. He says it aloud in rooms filled with men who still don't want to believe him. But fewer people die, and the survivors start to listen. Not all of them, but enough. None of it matters to you. By the time the pump handle is removed, you've been dead for days. Your room has been scrubbed and relet. Your body has already sunk into the soil of a mass grave, or dissolved into a pit of lime. Your name, if it was ever written down, has long since been smudged or forgotten. You didn't live long enough to see the change. You didn't get to say you told them so. You never even got to hear the theory. Your neighbours don't celebrate the closure of the pump. They barely acknowledge it. It's just one less option in a city of bad options. The boy who took your place in the bed starts fetching water from another street. It tastes worse, but he doesn't complain. The bucket fills all the same. The sores don't come back. Not yet. The room doesn't forget you, but it stops caring. The stain beneath the basin is still there, fainter now, partially covered by the boy's bundle and his battered boots. No one scrubs it anymore. No one points at it. When the sunlight hits the far wall just right, a faint outline of your shape can still be seen in the dust. Head, shoulders, legs curled. But that fades with time too. The smell lingers longest, vinegar and sweat and sickness, soaked deep into the boards. But even that loses its edge. The wind off the river carries something new these days, something less sweet and more metallic. It doesn't improve things, just changes them. And Snow? He keeps working. He keeps walking. He marks more maps, traces more outbreaks, writes longer papers with longer titles. Some people listen, some pretend to. Eventually, they'll put up a plaque with his name on it, near the pump that's no longer a pump, commemorating the man who proved the truth. It'll be shiny and well-intentioned and ignored by most who pass it. And none of the names on his map will be listed there. Not yours, not the boys', not the hundreds of others reduced to dots on a page. The handle is gone. The deaths have slowed. The map did its job, but you already did yours. And your street still smells the same. You are not special. That's the tragedy. Not just that you died, but that your death fits so neatly into the expected pattern. It came right on schedule, like rainfall or rent. You weren't murdered, though what happened to you might as well have been. You weren't a martyr, though your body broke for something larger and more invisible than you could understand. You were just another poor person in a long line of poor people, born too close to a cesspool and too far from anyone who might care enough to stop what was coming. You lived where the water pooled low and the air stood thick, where money didn't reach and sanitation didn't bother to glance. And so, like so many others, you died. You weren't the first, you weren't even among the notable. Your body collapsed with all the grace of a gutted bucket, and the floor soaked you in. That was the end of it. No investigation, no headlines, just another notch on a ledger in a parish office, if that. Your name may never have made it there. It may have been misspelled or replaced by a question mark. You may have been written down as unknown male, adult female, pauper. You may not have been written down at all. No one will speak about how you suffered, not in detail. They might say you died from cholera, or from the fever, or from God's judgment, or just bad luck. They'll say it quickly, then change the subject, because the reality of what happened to you is too unpleasant to sit with, and too common to be worth retelling. Your story wasn't made for sermons or songs. It's not the kind of death that teaches anything new. It doesn't inspire, it doesn't outrage. It just lingers in the corners of rooms, like a stain that won't come out. There are no lessons in your bones, no great moral hiding in your collapse. You didn't die because you failed. You died because everything around you already had. The pipes failed. The system failed. The city failed. You were the product of decades of rot, of neglect dressed up as inevitability. And when your body gave out, no one gasped. They just noted the smell, opened the window, and got on with the day. Your death made room for someone else, that's all. Another tenant, another name on a board, another hand to do work you can't. That boy who took your room, he won't remember you either. He'll live there until he doesn't, until he coughs too loudly, or sweats too much, or drinks the wrong ladle of water. Then they'll scrape his body out of the bed, the same way they did yours. Maybe faster. They've had practice now. You didn't die in a moment. You faded, slowly, messily. Day by day, you leaked out into the sheets, into the mattress, into the cracks in the floor. Your final breath wasn't noble or dramatic. It didn't come with closure or calm. It just didn't come back. You blinked, or maybe you didn't, and that was it. A blank spot where a life used to be. Your body stuck around a little longer, but it had already stopped pretending. It had given up on dignity long before you stopped breathing. The people who cleaned your room didn't mean harm. They didn't spit on your name. They didn't curse you or celebrate your passing. They just did what needed doing. They scrubbed, they opened the window, they threw out the worst of it and left the rest for time to deal with. Because what else were they supposed to do? They couldn't mourn every death, not when they were living beside it. You were a statistic before you were a memory. You were already part of the tally that built the case for closing the pump, long before anyone knew you were gone. You were one of the many nameless dead, who justified a single screw turning in a rusted pipe somewhere, a handle being lifted away while no one watched. That's the part they remember. The removal, the discovery, the triumph of knowledge over ignorance. But the deaths, your death, fade into the margins, necessary casualties of a scientific victory. There is no statue for you, no candle burning in a chapel, no gravestone with a name carved into it, no note tucked between bricks in an alley where you might have once walked. You have no legacy, not the kind people imagine when they talk about lives lived and lessons learned. You're not even a warning. The world has long since decided that the poor are acceptable losses. When people speak of cholera now, they speak of outbreaks and epidemics and water safety. They don't speak of rooms like yours, of stomachs that emptied into buckets, of ribs that cut through shirts. They don't speak of how it felt. There were thousands like you, there still are. Places where water still carries death, where waste seeps through walls, where illness is not an emergency, but an expectation. Places where people die not because of bad decisions, but because of old ones, made by someone else, long ago, with money in one hand and distance in the other. The only difference now is that no one pretends it's mysterious. Just unfortunate, just inevitable. Maybe your death mattered to someone, a neighbour, a co-worker, someone who noticed when you stopped coming down the stairs, when your cough stopped echoing through the walls. But if they did, they didn't say much. They couldn't afford to. Mourning takes time. And in places like yours, time costs more than anyone can pay. You existed in a gap between work shifts, between epidemics, between what mattered and what could be ignored. You lived in that gap for years, and then you died in it. Quietly, unceremoniously, exactly as expected. The building never stopped creaking. The pump never stopped dripping. The city never stopped churning. Even your street, thick with death and filth and fear, eventually found its rhythm again. The butcher sold meat. The baker burned loaves. The preacher shouted. The child next door coughed and kept coughing. Your story doesn't end with resolution. It doesn't tie itself neatly with a conclusion or a sigh. It just dissolves like you did, into fabric and dust, into silence and rot. The mattress still holds your shape if the light hits it right, but even that won't last. There will be no fade to black, no curtain call, just stillness and the smell you left behind. That brings us to the end of tonight's story. Damp, forgotten, and quietly decomposing behind a closed tenement door. If you're still listening, thank you for walking through the filth and fever with me, for bearing witness to a life that ended not in drama or defiance, but in silence and waste. Victorian London didn't honour its dead like you. It stacked them, burned them, or buried them cheap. Too common to count. But for a moment, you've remembered one of them. Briefly, as he slipped into the cracks. If you'd like early access to more of these quiet tragedies, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find a link to the Patreon in the description. Feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment with other forgotten corners of history you'd like to see covered. If you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps others find their way to these stories. And special thanks to the supporters who make this show possible, including our chroniclers, Andrew S. and Amanda Lampke. Sleep well.